you have been told that your words create your world. You have written the affirmations, you have spoken them into the mirror, you have repeated them like a mantra, trying to convince the universe, and yourself, of a reality that has not yet arrived. And yet, the clients don't call. The money doesn't flow. And a quiet, nagging voice in the back of your mind whispers, "This isn't working." It isn't. Not because affirmations are powerless, but because you are using them backwards. This story will reveal the profound linguistic and energetic mistake you are making. It will give you a simple, powerful, and counterintuitive method to reverse the flow of your declarations. This is not another affirmation technique. It is an entirely new way of speaking to your subconscious mind and to the quantum field. And it works so fast, you will see tangible, undeniable results in the next 48 hours. Chloe was a professional optimist, and it was exhausting her. At 32, she was a talented freelance brand designer, a woman with a brilliant eye for aesthetics and a deep desire to help soulful, creative businesses find their voice. Her apartment in the trendy Shoreditch district of London was a testament to her commitment to the high-vibe life. Her vision board was a masterpiece, her journal was filled with scripting, and her daily practice was a litany of powerful positive I am statements. Her most sacred and all-consuming desire was to land a soulmate client. Not just a high-paying gig, but a true creative partnership with a brand that was changing the world, a project that would allow her to do her best, most meaningful work and finally provide her with the financial stability she craved. But her reality was a frustrating cycle of small, uninspired projects and long, terrifying droughts of no work at all. Her antagonist was her own deeply ingrained mindset of affirming lack. She didn't realize it, but every time she said, "I am a magnet for high-paying clients," her subconscious mind, the powerful gatekeeper of her reality, would hear the unspoken subtext, "I am saying this because, right now, I do not have high-paying clients." Her affirmations were not declarations of a new truth. They were loud, neon signs pointing directly at her current state of lack. She was not programming her mind for abundance, she was reinforcing the reality of its absence. The effort of trying to believe a statement that her moment-to-moment reality was constantly refuting was creating a state of profound energetic dissonance. Her affirmations felt like a lie, and her life was a perfect mirror of that inner conflict. Is she doomed to be a prisoner of this positive-sounding paradox, her own words working against her in a subtle and powerful act of self-sabotage? Or is there a simple linguistic key, a way to flip the script that can finally align her words with her desired reality and unlock the flow she has been trying so hard to force? If you have ever felt that your affirmations are falling on deaf ears, that you are just saying empty words, then subscribe. The next 48 hours could change your life. Part 1. The final frustrating proof that her method was failing arrived on a Monday morning. The previous loop closed, her affirmations had been exposed as impotent. The new loop opened with an email from a potential soulmate client, a sustainable fashion brand she had been desperately wanting to work with. They loved her portfolio, but they had decided to go with a larger, more established agency. The subtext was clear, she was not perceived as successful enough for them. The rejection was a brutal, direct reflection of her own inner state of lack. The news shattered her carefully constructed facade of positivity. She scraped the sticky note affirmations off her monitor and threw them in the bin. She was done. Done with the forced gratitude, done with the fake it till you make it philosophy. Defeated and cynical, she did something she hadn't done in years. She went to the library. Not the self-help section, but the dusty, forgotten basement archives of the British Library, where she had once loved to go as a student of linguistics. She was retreating into a world of pure, objective, and unemotional information. She wasn't looking for anything in particular. She was just a soul seeking refuge in the quiet, comforting scent of old books. She pulled a random, heavy, leather-bound volume from a shelf. It was a 19th-century text on rhetoric and the art of persuasive language. As she idly flipped through the fragile yellowed pages, a single strange chapter heading caught her eye. The art of the assumptive question, how to command assent by bypassing the argument. In that dusty, silent basement, surrounded by the ghosts of a million dead words, she found her unlikely mentor. It was not a person, but an idea, a forgotten principle of language. The chapter described a rhetorical technique used by ancient Greek orators. They would not try to convince their audience of a new truth by making a declarative statement, an affirmation. Instead, they would ask a question that already had the new, desired truth embedded within it as a settled premise. They would not say, "Socrates is a wise man." They would ask, "What is the next wise thing Socrates will do?" The question bypassed the listener's critical faculty, the part of the mind that argues with a statement, and immediately engaged their creative, problem-solving mind in the new frame of reality. The idea hit Chloe with the force of an electrical shock. This was it. This was the flaw in her own programming. Her "I am" statements were a direct challenge to her subconscious, which would immediately rise to argue with them, armed with the hard evidence of her current reality. But a question was an invitation. It was a doorway. She raced back to her apartment, her mind buzzing with a new, clean, and logical energy. She looked at her reflection in the window, but instead of affirming, she decided to try it. Her old affirmation was, "I am a brilliant and highly sought-after designer." She felt the familiar, subtle internal resistance to the statement. It felt like a lie. She took a deep breath, and she asked her reflection the new question. Her voice was a quiet, curious whisper. "Why are my designs suddenly in such high demand?" The effect was instantaneous and profound. Her mind did not argue. It couldn't. The question was not a statement to be verified. It was a problem to be solved. Her brain, the loyal and powerful servant it was, immediately and reflexively began to search for an answer. Is it because of the new color palette you've been developing? Is it because your minimalist style is now on trend? It was not a battle. It was a creative collaboration. She had just, for the first time, bypassed the guardian at the gate of her own subconscious. She has discovered a new technology of the mind, a way to speak a language her subconscious can not only understand, but is designed to obey. But can this simple linguistic trick really produce a tangible, real-world result in just 48 hours? Part 2. Chloe felt a surge of excitement that was different from her old, forced positivity. This was not an emotional high. It was the clean, cool thrill of a logical discovery. This closed the previous loop. She had found her new method. The new loop of conflict began with the challenge of applying it consistently. Her antagonist, the mindset of affirming lack, was deeply ingrained. Her habitual thought patterns were a powerful current pulling her back to the old way. She would catch herself, dozens of times a day, falling back into the old, "I am" statements, or worrying about her empty inbox. The new practice required a new kind of vigilance. It was not a battle to feel good, but a constant, gentle redirection of her own inner dialogue, a shift from making statements to asking questions. She created her new protocol. She took a single sheet of paper and wrote her one core desire, to be a celebrated, financially abundant, and creatively fulfilled brand designer. Then, she folded the paper in half. On the left side, she wrote her old, backward affirmations. "I am wealthy. I am successful. I am a magnet for clients." On the right side, she wrote their powerful, forward-moving replacements, the assumptive questions. How did my income double so quickly? What is the secret to my effortless success? Why are so many soulmate clients suddenly trying to contact me? This document became her new Bible. But her internal conflict was fierce. The part of her that was still attached to the old spiritual work felt like this new method was a cheat, a trick. "This is just a mental game," it would whisper. "You're not doing the real work of feeling it. This is superficial." It was a battle between the old, emotionally driven paradigm and the new, logically driven one. The external conflict was the stark, undeniable reality of her bank account. She had 48 hours. Not a mystical, symbolic 48 hours, but a real one. A major bill for her professional software subscription was due, and if she didn't pay it, she would lose the very tools she needed to work. The pressure was immense and very real. The world was not giving her a month to test her new theory, It was giving her 2 days. She spent the next 24 hours in a state of deep, focused practice. Every time a wave of panic about the bill would rise, she would not fight it. She would not affirm it away. She would meet it with a question. The panic would say, "You're not going to be able to pay this." She would take a breath and ask her mind, "How did I pay that bill so easily?" The panic would say, "You have no clients." She would ask, "Why is my inbox suddenly so full of exciting new leads?" She was not lying to herself. She was consciously and deliberately redirecting her powerful, creative mind away from the problem and towards the solution. The first 24 hours are over. She has survived by constantly, vigilantly applying the new method. She has kept her mental state in a place of creative problem-solving instead of panicked lack. But the clock is ticking. The bill is still due. Will this purely linguistic, logical shift actually be able to affect the hard, tangible, and unforgiving reality of her finances in the next 24 hours? Part 3. The second 24-hour period was a masterclass in holding a new state of being in the face of contradictory evidence. The loop of her initial practice was closed, but a new, more intense loop opened, the final countdown. The subtrauma of her own skepticism became the central focus. The logical, evidence-based part of her mind, the very part that had been so excited by the rhetorical trick, was now demanding to see the data. It was looking at her empty inbox, at her bank balance, and it was saying, "The experiment is failing. The hypothesis is being disproven." The challenge was to keep asking the questions even when the 3D world was shouting a different answer. A powerful layer of complexity was added by her best friend, a pragmatic and loving yoga teacher named Maria. Chloe told Maria about her discovery, her new method, her 48-hour experiment. Maria was deeply concerned. "Chloe, this sounds like you're putting a huge amount of pressure on yourself," she said, her voice full of gentle worry. "Manifestation isn't a magic trick. Maybe you should just call your parents and ask for a loan. Be practical. Don't put your faith in a linguistic hack." Maria's loving, sensible advice was a powerful voice for the old reality, the world of practical solutions and managing problems, not transcending them. But Chloe persisted. She went for a walk through the bustling streets of Shoreditch, and instead of feeling the old pang of envy at the successful, creative people around her, she asked a new question: "How did I become a leader in this creative community?" She looked at the beautiful high-end design shops, and instead of feeling the lack in her own life, she asked, "Which of these shops will be the first to carry my own line of products?" She was performing a kind of quantum alchemy on her own perception. She was not changing the world, she was changing the lens through which she was viewing it. And in doing so, she was subtly, powerfully, and constantly rewiring her own neural pathways, training her brain to see opportunities where it had once only seen obstacles. The feeling of fakeness was completely gone, because she was no longer making a statement that could be proven false. She was engaging in a creative, playful, and deeply absorbing game with her own mind. The final hours of the 48-hour window were approaching. She was still broke. But she was no longer in a state of lack. She was in a state of profound and deeply logical curiosity. The experiment is nearing its end. She has held her new state of being with a discipline that is almost heroic. She has transformed her inner world. But the outer world has not yet delivered its verdict. What will be the final result? Will it be the validation she hopes for, or the crushing proof that this was, after all, just a clever game? Part 4. It was 3 p.m. on the second day. The bill was due at midnight. Chloe was in her apartment, and she had reached a state of profound and surprising peace. She had done the work. She had held the questions. And she had come to a quiet, powerful realization. The true result of the experiment was not the money. It was the freedom she had felt for the past 48 hours. The freedom from the constant, grinding, and exhausting war with her own mind. She had found a way to feel good, not by forcing an emotion, but by engaging her mind in a creative and joyful new way. If nothing else happened, this discovery alone was worth the price of admission. She had made her peace with the outcome. The loop of her intense, 48-hour practice was about to close. In a state of complete, non-attached calm, she decided to do something she hadn't been able to do for months. She opened her design software, not to work on a client project, but to play. She began to create a brand identity for a company that did not exist. A company that was the perfect, soulmate client she had always dreamed of. An artisanal, sustainable, and wildly creative honey company from the English countryside. She poured all her newfound joy, all her calm, all her creative freedom into it. She was not trying to attract a client. She was becoming the designer she had always wanted to be, right now, in that moment. And then, it happened. An email popped into her inbox. The subject line was, Urgent Design Project, Introduction from Sustainable Fashion Brand. Her heart did not leap with a frantic, needy excitement. It gave a single, quiet, and powerful thud of recognition. She opened the email. It was from a man named Julian, the founder of a small, artisanal honey company called Golden Nectar Apiary. He had gotten her name from the creative director of the very fashion brand that had rejected her 2 days ago. I was at their offices this morning, the email read, and I was complaining that I couldn't find a designer who understood the soul of my brand. The creative director stopped the meeting, pulled up your portfolio, and said, "You need to talk to this woman. Her work is pure poetry. We have a massive opportunity, a feature in a major food magazine, but our branding is a mess. The deadline is insane. Can we possibly speak in the next hour?" The manifestation was here. And it was more perfect, more strange, and more beautiful than anything she could have forced. The universe had not just sent her a client. It had sent her the very client she was in the process of inventing in her own joyful, creative play. And it had used the source of her greatest failure, the rejection, as the very channel through which the success would flow. A quote from Neville Goddard, which had once felt like a complex paradox, became a simple, logical fact. Creation is finished. You are not creating, you are only becoming aware of what already exists. The client, the opportunity, the solution, they were already there, waiting for her to ask the right question to make them visible. She has her proof. The method works, and it works in a way that is more intelligent, more elegant, and more magical than she could have ever imagined. She has the client, she has the deadline. Now, can she use her new method to deliver a masterpiece under pressure? This stunningly fast and precise manifestation has sparked a new question in your own mind? Subscribe for more stories that provide real, actionable techniques for immediate results. Part 5. The conversation with Julian from Golden Nectar Apiary was not a pitch, it was a reunion of souls. The previous loop closed, the client had arrived. Now, the consequences of this new reality began to unfold. Chloe spoke to him from her new, calm, and sovereign state of being. She listened deeply. And then, she showed him, via a screen share, the branding concept she had just been creating. There was a long, stunned silence on the other end of the call. How did you do that?" Julian finally stammered. That is the image that has been in my heart for a year, but I could never describe it." "I asked the right questions," was all Chloe said. The consequences were immediate. She was hired on the spot. The fee for the Rush project was more than enough to pay her software bill and cover her rent for the next 3 months. The 48-hour experiment was a stunning, undeniable success. But the true consequence was not the money, it was the shift in her own identity. She was not a struggling freelancer anymore. She was a designer who was in such high demand that the perfect clients were appearing in her inbox at the very moment she was thinking of them. She had not just changed her language, she had changed her reality. Her creative process for the Golden Nectar project was a dream. Every time she faced a design challenge, she would not struggle. She would simply ask the question, why was the color palette so easy to perfect? How did the perfect typeface for the label just appear? The answers and the inspiration would flow with an effortless grace. She was no longer a designer who solved problems, she was a designer who lived in a reality where the solutions were always elegant and obvious. She delivered the final branding package in a week, and it was the most beautiful, authentic, and soulful work of her entire career. She has succeeded. The money has flowed. The work is a masterpiece. She has the proof. But is this a one-time magic trick? Or is it a sustainable, repeatable method for a new way of living and creating? Part 6. The Golden Nectar Project was a triumph. The brand was featured in the magazine, and the beautiful, soulful design was an overnight sensation in the design world. This was her final and most subtle test, the test of success. The old Chloe, on the peak of a high-vibe win, would have immediately fallen back into a state of anxiety, of what's next? Of how do I top this? The fear of the inevitable crash would have already begun. She consolidated her growth by making the assumptive question protocol the unshakable foundation of her new reality. She did not abandon the practice now that she had succeeded. She deepened it. She started a new journal, a book of beautiful questions. She began to apply the method not just to her business, but to every area of her life. Instead of worrying about her health, she would ask, why does my body feel so vibrant and energized every day? Instead of feeling lonely, she would ask, how did I attract such a warm, loving, and supportive community of friends? She was consciously and deliberately choosing to live in the reality of the answer, not the reality of the problem. This was not a 48-hour experiment anymore. It was her new operating system, and her life began to effortlessly, gracefully, and consistently rearrange itself to match the new, beautiful questions she was asking. The feast or famine cycle was broken forever. In its place was a steady, joyful, and ever-expanding flow of creative opportunities, financial abundance, and deep, personal fulfillment. She had not just learned a new technique, she had become a new person. She has integrated the method and achieved a state of stable, joyful success. She has become a master of the game. But the greatest masters are always called to become teachers. How will she share this simple, profound, and life-changing discovery with the world? Part 7. 6 months after the Golden Nectar Project, Chloe was one of the most in-demand brand designers in London. She had a waiting list of soulmate clients and a life that was a beautiful, calm, and abundant dream. The loop of her personal success was closed. The final loop, the one that would expand her mission beyond herself, opened with a new, insistent question that began to bubble up in her mind. How did my simple method manage to help so many other creative people? She realized that her journey was not just for her. The discovery she had made in the dusty archives of the British Library was a key that could unlock 1,000 other cages. She felt a new, and even more compelling, desire to teach her method. She prepared for this leap not with a business plan, but with her own process. She began to create a new design project, her most ambitious yet. It was a beautiful, interactive online course and community. The name came to her in an instant. The question mark. The branding she created for it was stunning, elegant, minimalist, and vibrating with the energy of curiosity and power. She spent months pouring her heart and soul into creating the content, structuring her simple, powerful method into a clear, logical, step-by-step guide for other skeptics and frustrated manifestors. She was not just building a course, she was building a new school of thought. The tension was not one of fear, but of excitement. This was not about proving something. It was about sharing something. It was the final, most beautiful expression of her own transformation. She set a launch date. She did not invest in a massive, expensive marketing campaign. She prepared to launch it in the same way she had manifested her first client, with a single, clear, powerful, and authentic transmission. The course is built. The mission is clear. She is about to share her secret with the world. Will a world addicted to the complexity of spiritual work be receptive to a message that is so simple, so logical, and so profoundly counterintuitive? Part 8. The day before the launch of the question mark, Chloe did something that felt both brave and perfectly aligned. She wrote an article. It was not a sales pitch. It was her story. The story of the sticky notes, of the empty inbox, of the dusty library book, of the 48-hour experiment. She titled it, Affirmations Are Backwards, Here's What I Did Instead. She posted it on a popular online platform for creative entrepreneurs, and she included a single, simple link to her new course at the very end. She did not check the stats. She did not worry about the response. She simply sent her transmission out into the world and trusted it would find the people who needed to hear it. The next morning, she woke up, and before she did anything else, she performed her 90-second ritual. She lay in the quiet of her bedroom and asked the question, why was the launch of the question mark so much more successful and impactful than I could have ever imagined? Then, and only then, did she open her laptop. Her inbox was a flood. Not just with sales notifications, which were coming in faster than she could count, but with emails. Hundreds of them. Emails from writers, artists, entrepreneurs, and creators from all over the world. They were not just buying a course. They were writing to say, "Thank you. I thought I was the only one who felt like a fraud when I did my affirmations. This is the first thing that has ever made logical sense to me. I tried it this morning, and for the first time in years, the war in my head stopped. The promise of the introduction was fulfilled. The method was not just a trick. It was a key. It was a profound, powerful, and universally effective technology for changing one's reality from the inside out." Her story, her simple, logical discovery, had become a beacon of hope for a whole community of people who were ready for a new way. The course is a sensation. Her message is spreading like wildfire. She has become a teacher, a leader, a source of profound clarity for thousands. But what is the true, lasting impact of a life that is built on the foundation of asking better questions? Part 10. Chloe's life became a beautiful, ever-unfolding answer to the questions she was asking. The question mark grew into a global movement, a community of logical manifestors who were changing their lives and their businesses with this simple, profound shift in their internal language. Chloe became a celebrated author and speaker, but she was not a guru. She was a teacher of a method, a humble and joyful guide who always pointed the power back to the individual. She had learned the ultimate secret. Affirmations are an argument with your present reality, and your subconscious mind, the loyal guardian of that reality, will almost always win the argument. An assumptive question is an invitation to your subconscious to become your creative partner. It bypasses the argument and goes straight to the creation. It is the language of the quantum field, a field that does not respond to our desperate declarations, but to our clear, focused, and creatively engaged curiosity. Chloe's life was a testament to this truth. She had not just manifested success. She had manifested a life of ease, of flow, of joy, and of profound, meaningful service. All by learning to stop shouting at the universe and start asking it more beautiful questions. Her journey has sparked a revolution in the way people think about manifestation. But what is the next question for a soul who has learned to create worlds with her words? We see Chloe a year later. She is sitting in a beautiful, sun-drenched cafe in Lisbon. She has moved there, her dream life fully realized. Across the table from her is a young, anxious-looking woman, a new coaching client. The young woman is talking about her affirmations, about her struggle, about her feeling of being a fraud. Chloe listens with a deep, compassionate, and knowing smile. When the young woman is finished, Chloe does not give her a new affirmation. She simply leans forward and asks her a single, gentle, and life-changing question. She learned that the most powerful statements are not statements at all. They are questions. What is the one, beautiful, and life-changing question your own soul is waiting for you to ask it? The habit of backward affirmations is keeping you in a state of struggle. It is time to flip the script. Your challenge is simple and powerful. For the next 48 hours, you are forbidden from using any "I am" affirmations for your desires. Instead, you will choose one of your old affirmations and transform it into an assumptive question. If your affirmation was, "I am wealthy," your new question is, "How did I become so wealthy?" Ask this question, and only this question, whenever you think about your desire. Let your brilliant mind get to work on.
The answer, not the argument. This is a 48-hour experiment in a new reality. What happens? Report your results in the comments below. For more stories that provide the real, practical, and fast-acting methods of conscious creation, make sure you subscribe and join this community of question askers.